Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, but before we rise for the pledge, I'd like to introduce you to 3 out of the 4 that I have listed here. Drew Verellen, he's from Utica High School. Raise your hand. Sean Becker,
Is not present.
not present.
Oh,
No?
is that
Oh,
Sean?
there's Sean.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is. Sean Becker from Eisenhower High School. Carter Shuri and Lucas Sanderson from Shelby Junior High. They are in Troop 242. They are here for a merit badge called Citizens in the Community, and they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please all rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you, guys.
Ms. Posey, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Trustee Bussino?
Here.
Trustee Krasinski?
Here.
Trustee Nevers?
Present.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Here.
Clerk Posey here, and Supervisor Dunn.
Here. Thank you. We now move on to approval of agenda items, and I know there are a couple.
A
Ms.
long
Posey,
list.
please.
Under consent agenda, we have a proposed add-on, C1, under Water and Sewer, request to attend 2019 Municipal Safety Day Conference. Under new business agenda, a proposed add-on, D1, under Human Resources, a medical leave of absence. Proposed add-on 12A, under Fire, request to approve contract modification for stormwater detention work. Proposed add-on 18, under Human Resources, request authorization to extend offer of employment in Water and Sewer Department. Proposed add-on 19, under General Counsel, request to approve resolution regarding, I'll remove it.
Yep.
That's on the last of the list. That was an add-on. We'll skip that one. I would like to add on under the Clerk's Department, request outside legal counsel to conduct an employee investigation regarding conduct of employee 2205. And we are removing agenda item number 19. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other board members have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, what was the employee's number again?
2205.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support. By Ms. Cozy, seconded by Mr. Buzzino to approve the amended agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. And the approval of the bills, as usual, there are 2 bill runs. If anyone wishes an item removed, please indicate so at this time.
Madam Supervisor, I would like to move the Neiman Law invoice to agenda item 19B for discussion. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
You're going to ask for okay. Move the Neiman Law invoice agenda item 9 to 19B.
B?
For discussion.
What do you got for A?
19A was an add-on, request outside legal counsel to conduct an employee investigation regarding conduct of employee 2205.
I thought you were gonna do it on it to your clerk's comments.
Right, which is gonna be 19A. Not comments, it's clerks, under the clerk section. It'll be an add-on.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Madam Chair, if there are no other additions to the bills, both bill runs, I move that we approve both.
Motion by Ms. Nevers,
Support.
supported by Ms. Smith, to approve both bill runs with the one removed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. And then we have the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Those are from May the 8th. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Hearing none, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from May 8th as presented.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support.
supported by Ms. Posey to approve the minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries, and then we have the approval of the closed session minutes.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to make a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes from May 8th as presented.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support.
seconded by Ms. Nevers, to approve the closed session minutes from May the 8th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Next, we have consent agenda items. These are routine matters that come before the board. If anyone wishes to discuss an item on the consent, please indicate so at this time.
Seeing none, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Support.
supported by
Ms. Smith.
Ms. Smith to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Public comments on agenda items only. If you wish to speak before the board on an agenda item, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and remember there is a 3-minute time limit.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Cruzmano, 16188 Jenny Drive. I'm commenting on what is now agenda item 19B. I had an opportunity briefly to review this, and I want to read so that the board is fully aware, which I'm sure many of the members of the board have read this clause in the contract with Mr. Assorti. The employee, in his capacity as general counsel, shall have the authority and duty under the general direction of township supervisors to contract with legal counsel when, in the employee's exercise of his or her legal discretion, such arrangement is in the best interest of the township and or legally required. Such retention shall be subject to the board's review. The board shall not unreasonably restrict or deny general counsel's choices of outside retained counsel. This is an amazing clause. It delegates to general counsel authority which should only rest with the board. It may also be unlawful as a matter of public policy in that the term of the contract extends and binds future boards. So, what is the remedy for such retention shall be subject to board review? Can the board say no? If the board says no to the Nemeth Law Firm's legal bill, hasn't Mr. Assorti already bound the township by ostensible agency to the contract for payment of their fees? Look what is occurring tonight on this matter. This clause is troublesome in so many dimensions. It has to be reviewed by independent legal counsel to determine whether or not the board should rescind and give notice to Mr. Assorti to curb that unfettered discretion given to him in a contract which it appears he drafted. Thank you.
Anyone else? This is on agenda items.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Western. I take it from the previous speaker's comments that employee number 2205 is Thomas Assorti, not for 19B. And if in fact, well, coincidentally, I'd sent an email, most of you, maybe many of you had seen that. I was wondering about legal bills and the amount of oversight and scrutiny the board has over legal bills before they are obligated and when they are on the bill run. I see department heads come up here all the time and give explanations about things they might want to purchase in the future or expenses that they were surprised to become obligated to because of an emergency, but not so much scrutiny of legal bills. Now, in terms of what you're calling an employee investigation, I think some of the things that have come to light over the last couple of board meetings and in the newspapers would certainly call for an investigation, and especially if you measure it by the thousands that were apparently spent on investigating a middle-level employee who had just passed her probation period. And if you witnessed, as I did, her speech before this board, this is hardly someone you would consider a menace. And I was perplexed by why she would have earned that level of investigation by an outside firm. I'm also curious as to what vetting goes on in terms of which firms are hired or which individuals are hired. And can somebody like just hire their neighbor and assign them work? Or does the board have oversight over that? It was suggested to me on social media that we're not experts, we the residents, in making these kinds of decisions. And with that, I heartily concur, which is why we depend on all of you as our elected representatives to exercise the appropriate amount of due diligence on these items. And we would like to see that you do that. I look forward to the discussion later. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. We now have a presentation from Michigan Recreation and Park Association Community Service Award. Ms. Walters.
Thank you. My name's Linda Walter. I'm with the Michigan DNR, and I sit as one of the awards committee, professional recreation committee members of the Michigan Recreation and Park Association. We service the entire state of Michigan. People work in public and nonprofit recreation. And on April 17th in East Lansing, 31 community organizations statewide receive recognition for community service. Macomb Township Parks and Recreation nominated the Macomb County Sheriff's Department, the Macomb Township Substation, which is under the leadership of Stephen Briney. Your Parks and Recreation Department hosts 11 large-scale signature events that are open to all each year. They attract thousands of folks. Some of those include Fall Fun Fest, tree lighting, movies under the stars, and more, including Music in the Park, where I saw firsthand excellent public service under some extreme situations by the Macomb County Sheriffs who were working last summer. These fine sheriff's officers also volunteer for the future firefighter and junior deputy camps, inspiring the next generation of public safety officers. Along with patrolling the largest event, tons of trucks, they provide some of the very best vehicles: squad cars, motorcycles, horses, a SWAT tank, a hovercraft, and a helicopter. When law enforcement connects and engages the community, a very special relationship occurs, one that involves children from an early age looking at officers with trust and admiration, that adults who feel officers are concerned, invested, and can be trusted under every circumstance. Macomb Township Parks and Recreation is an exemplary Parks and Rec department, and the Macomb County Sheriff's Department has a stellar relationship with them. The result is a strong sense of community that makes Macomb Township a great place to live, work, and play. On behalf of the Michigan Recreation and Parks Association, I commend your leadership, your Parks and Recreation Department, and the terrific men and women of the Sheriff's Department who have earned this Community Service Award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. The next is a public hearing, and this is 2018 Community Development Grant Amended Application Public Hearing. So I will open the public hearing. It is 7:15. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue? Very well, I will close the public hearing. Then it is 7:18. This is to approve the revised CDBG application that allocates the 75% of our funding for bricks and mortar to remove the architectural barriers from Macomb Township sidewalk ramp locations in Section 30. This will be a great help to any of our elderly who use walkers or canes or anything of that site. It is becoming mandatory that any new sidewalks that are on an intersection have these. So this is a great asset for us. Right now, that's all we're doing is approving the change in the funding. Any questions?
Madam Chair, hearing none, I will make a motion to go to the application as presented.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Krasinski. Support. Seconded by Ms. Nevers to approve this revised CDB application. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Thank you. Number 9 is a request to schedule a public hearing for the budget, 2019-2020 budget. And Ms. Smith has indicated that she would like to have the public hearings on June 12th and June 26th. Is there a motion to that effect?
Madam Chair, because this is administrative, I would go ahead and make a motion on those two dates as presented by our Finance Director.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Krasinski, supported by Mr. Buzzano. To set the public hearings for June 12th and 26th on the 2019-2020 budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Next is the authorization to pay the appraisal fees for the 26 Mile Road property to qualify for the grant that we are applying from the DNR. One of the requirements is to have 2 different appraisals completed. Six Rivers Conservancy paid the fees up front, and this invoice will return these fees to them. Any question?
Madam Chair, hearing none, I will go ahead and make a motion to authorize this pay.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
Support.
seconded by Ms. Goodhue, to approve the invoice for the appraisal fees. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next is an Information Technology Department request, and this is to purchase computer hardware, software, and licenses for the Building Department, the Fire Department, and the Parks and Recreation Department. This hardware, software, and licenses is to bring all of our computers into Windows 10, as well as the servers downstairs, so that we're all on one platform. The IT department has been very busy in the last 3 or 4 months doing the rest of the departments, and these are the only ones that are left. Any questions?
Madam Chair, if I may, will this bring us up to 2019, May of 2019 now?
Yes, it will.
The upgrade and everything else?
Right.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
There's no further questions, Madam Chair. I'll go ahead and make a motion on this.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
Second.
supported by Ms. Posey, to approve the requested computer hardware, software, and licenses. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Next, we have a fire department request to promote a probationary firefighter.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I come in front of you tonight recommending probationary firefighter David Buchholz to the position of paid-on-call firefighter. Firefighter Buchholz has successfully completed his 12 months of probation with the Macomb Township Fire Department as needed. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Deputy Chief Monroe?
Madam Chair, hearing none, I would go ahead and go with the motion and recommendation of the Assistant Fire Chief.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
Support.
supported by Ms. Smith, to approve the promotion of David Buchholz to firefighter. Congratulations, David. I neglected to take a vote on that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries, and thank you and congratulations.
Engineering office is going to handle the next agenda item.
The next one is the add-on, and this is a request to approve the contract modification for stormwater detention work. Mr. Van Tiffelen, are you going to handle this?
Yes. Madam Chairperson, members of the board, this all stems from the stormwater detention issue that we've been trying to work out with the Macomb County Department of Roads. When the original station was designed and then bid out, the idea was that we were just going to provide detention for the additional hard surface that would be constructed as part of the new public safety building. Our opinion was the remaining or the existing portion of the site was already draining into the road right away, and there was no reason to provide detention in our mind. When the plans were submitted to the Macomb County Department of Roads, they had a different opinion about that. They wanted us to provide stormwater detention, but it wasn't really clarified what it was that they meant by that. We thought that they had meant the fire station. We had provided some additional detention for that. Came back later, they wanted detention for the entire site. So the site that we built back in the 60s and 70s, they wanted this additional detention. So obviously the site does not have a lot of space. So what we had to do was put all of that detention underground, basically oversize all the storm sewer that is serving the existing facility, Elma Drive, the senior center in the back, as well as the new fire station storm sewer system. So back in January, we had gotten authorization to have AW start to design some of that with regard to the fire station, and then in the first meeting in February, we received authorization from the board to do the rest of the work with the senior center and media center. So what's before you tonight is the actual, what I'll call contract modification, just the numbers that the contractor is going to charge us for that additional pipe work. Some of this was included in the contract as a contingency because we had started to talk to them about it, and we thought this might be coming. So some of it was included in that for the fire station, not for the senior center. So if I know there's a lot of numbers on the sheets that you were given, I'd like to simplify what we're trying to do here. The quote that we've gotten from Burnco was for $705,558. That's the additional work that needs to be done by the contractor. That includes everything, all the pipe work, the concrete work, their markup, everything. So of that, 60% is related to the fire station, and 40% is related to the senior media center. So, and the reason I tell you that is they come from different funding sources. Obviously, the work that's done for the fire station is coming out of that building fund, whereas the senior center, I think all those funds will be coming out of the general fund. So if you do the math, the $423,335 that's listed in the letter from AW, that is the amount that will be charged to the building fund for the additional pipe work. The $282,223 is the money that would come out of the general fund. And again, this is just the construction cost. The design cost, that was already approved by the board as a separate matter, and that will also be split according to the 60-40, depending on, which fund we're getting the money from. So what we're asking for tonight is to approve the additional $705,558 so that the contractor can actually get started. This is holding up the construction on the site because obviously we've had a very wet spring. The site is very wet, and we'd like to get some of the storm drainage in so that we can get the water off the site and actually start building the fire station. So, and I will mention that there is an additional item that will be, I think, on the next Township Board agenda for the additional cost because of the delay in the construction. So obviously prices go up, prices change as time goes by. Because we've been trying to work this out with the Department of Roads, and then it's taken some time for AW to actually design this, there are additional costs. So at the next meeting, the fire chief will be bringing that, but I just wanted to mention, so there's no surprises next week that we've got something else, or next meeting we'll have something else. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair, if I may, Jim, you quoted on one price there, it says, what was it, $423,223?
No, that was a typo in the chief's letter. The AW letter has the price is $423,335. And if you add those two numbers together, that number and the $282,223, that's where you get the 705 number. Yep.
Just wanted to verify that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead. Madam Chair, I want to thank you today for talking to me and understanding the concerns I have with this. The numbers were a little bit different on the agenda item versus what EEW gave us. So I just want to thank you for talking to me about that, because as we discuss and as the vote goes on, I just want to let everybody know that we did communicate today. Thank you.
Anyone?
Madam Chair, if I may, Jim, and this might catch you off guard, and that's not my intention, but do you know can you give me a number on the difference between what we anticipated versus where we're at today?
I mean, the fire station?
With this modification in particular. So I know it was part of the contract and it was anticipated, so there was a certain dollar amount anticipated for that. Do you know how much this has exceeded that?
I believe that number was $360,000 for the fire station, and it ends up being $423,000 roughly.
Okay.
So
And
it's 60 plus thousand. Yeah.
Okay, I just, want to make mention that Mr. Van Tifflin has worked extensively with Macomb County Department of Roads. I've met with him several times with regards to this matter, and he has gone out of his way to try and find the least expensive option to the township to accommodate what we needed to get the building done. So he did his due diligence and worked hard at trying to resolve this issue at the least expensive avenue. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, hearing no other discussion, I will move with the recommendation as presented by our wonderful engineer.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski. Support. Supported by
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Smith
can we get a roll call vote on this?
to approve the contract modification. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Supervisor. Trustee Krasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Bustineau?
No.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue?
Yes.
Clerk Posey? Yes. Supervisor Dunn?
Yes. That motion carries. From the engineering department, we have a request to approve a pathway abeyance for 23330 24 Mile. Mr. Van Tifflin.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. This is for a piece of property on the south side of 24 Mile, just east of North Avenue. This property is in for a combination. Two parcels are being combined together to accommodate, I believe, a garage. As is the township's policy, when these types of things happen, they would be responsible for building the pathway in front of the two pieces of property, or the combined piece. In this case, 24 Mile in this section of the township does not have sidewalks anywhere near it, and we have accommodated other sidewalk abayances in this area, so we are recommending approval.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Hearing none, Madam Chair, I will make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Goodhue to approve the pathway abeyance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. And number 14 is a request to approve the Consumers Energy Easement Agreement for the Pathway Closure Gap Program. Mr. Van Tifflin.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. This is a typical consumer's energy easement. We've done many of these. They have their own form that they insist on using. This form has some indemnification language that we would typically not like. We have tried in the past to get them to change this language. We have been successful in getting them to modify it slightly. However, it is something that we normally would bring to the board, make the board aware of it, and just so that we're going into this in full transparency. There's a insurance policy that we're going to have to get that'd be associated with this project. So the language is basically the same as what the board has approved previously. Legal counsel and I have reviewed it. We're comfortable moving forward as long as we have that insurance policy in place. So we're recommending approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Van Tifflin?
Seeing none, I make a motion to approve the Consumers Energy Easement Agreement for the 2019 Pathway Gap Closure Program, parcel number 08-19-300-014.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Support.
supported by Ms. Goodhue to approve the Consumers Easement Agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Thank you. Parks and Recreation has a request to purchase replacement cardiovascular equipment. Mr. DeCaro.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Parks and Recreation Department is requesting permission to purchase replacement cardiovascular equipment for the rec center. We placed the item on Mitten. We received 3 bids. We are requesting to split the bids between all 3 bidders. At this time, we would like to purchase 8 units from Fitness Things for $30,065, 24 units from Direct Fitness for $99,950, and 16 units from Matrix Fitness for $55,168.86. In addition, our New Step Cross Trainer, which is a recumbent bike, was purchased in 2004. That also needs to be replaced. New Step is a sole source, so we would have to purchase it from them for $6,025. The total for all the equipment would be $191,000, $208.86. This is the end of our 3-year lease. Since we've opened in 2004, we've always leased our equipment. There is a new program that we found to purchase the equipment, and then the companies will buy it back at 20 to 25%, depending on the model and the resale value. By making this change, we would save $51,695 over the 3-year period. I do want to say I want to thank Gina Muzinski, who's our facility supervisor, who did a great job researching this and saving us that amount of money. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. DeCaro?
Madam Chair, hearing none, I would make a motion, and also thank Gina for finding this best of saving us some money there.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Posey, to approve the purchase of the cardiovascular equipment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Thank you. Human Resources has a request to approve advancement of employee number 2493 from probationary status effective May 25th. Mr. Sorty.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this is a request for authorization to allow employee number 2493 to advance from probationary status. Their original hire date was on November 26, 2018, and the probationary period is going to end on May 24th, 2019. This is, of course, the last meeting before that time. I've included for you in your package language from the MAPE/MTPEA, Article 11 regarding probationary employees. And with that, I'd ask, and I have checked with the department head regarding the conduct and the work of this employee, and has agreed to move forward with this. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve advancement of employee 2493 for probationary status effective May 25, 2019, upon the successful completion of the probationary period. And I can certainly answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair, hearing none, I would make a motion to go ahead and the
Motion by
new
Mr.
employee,
I'm sorry.
what was the number?
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
2493. Yes, that's what I was looking for, that number. 2493.
Thank
Support.
you.
Thank
Supported
you.
by Ms. Goodhue to improve the employee's advancement. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Number 17 is a request to approve a personal leave of absence beginning June 3rd through June 7th for employee number 2211. Mr. Sorty.
Madam Chair and members of the board, employee number 2211 has requested a personal leave of absence under the collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME. This request that's made, and the reason that this is on your full agenda, not on the consent agenda, is because of the request is being made for a leave without pay, and because of the other requests that I'm going to include for you later on. But basically, the AFSCME agreement allows for an employee to request a personal leave of absence. It requires that employee to submit a written request with certain information in it that we have verified as compliance. It includes medical information. That's why it wasn't included in the board packet. But we are in receipt of it and is in full compliance. In addition to that, this employee had a kind of unique set of circumstances on the disability insurance. She should have received 5 weeks of coverage, and because of the way things transpired here at the township, she received 4 weeks and 6 days because we did get the benefit of her coming to work for a portion of the day. So with that, and spending some time with the department head and some discussions with her, the Human Resources Department is asking that she be, that her PTO bank be receive 8 additional hours back for time that we've charged against her for during the time that she was here and worked. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the personal leave of absence beginning June 3rd through June 7th for employee 2211, and credit the employee with 8 hours of PTO, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the personal leave of absence beginning June 3rd through June 7th for employee 2211, and credit the employee with 8 hours of PTO.
Motion by Ms. Goodhue,
Support.
supported by Mr. Krasinski to approve this personal leave of absence. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Next, we have a request for authorization to extend an offer of employment in the Water and Sewer Department. Mr. Sorty.
Madam Chair, on March 13th, Madam Chair and members of the board, on March 13th, 2019, the Human Resources Department was authorized to begin recruitment process for utility worker. in the Water and Sewer Department. We received 15 applications, 9 candidates met the minimum requirements, and were invited to interview with the selection committee. After the interviews being conducted on May 16, 2019, the selection committee, consisting of the supervisor, treasurer, clerk, Mr. Wanglin, and Ed Koenig, are recommending the following candidate for hire, Alexander Kroll. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve Alexander Kroll for hire, contingent upon successful completion of post-offer pre-hire physical exam, drug and alcohol screening, background check, and psychological exam, and I can certainly answer any questions for you.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize to extend the offer of employment of in the Water and Sewer Department to Alexandra Kroll.
Motion by Ms. Posey,
Support.
Ms. Goodhue.
Goodhue.
Ms. Goodhue.
supported by Ms. Goodhue, to extend the offer of employment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries. Number 19 has been postponed, and number 19A, I need the exact wording for that, because I didn't get it. Request outside legal counsel to conduct an employee investigation regarding conduct of employee 2205.
Members of the board, on April 15th, the 3 full-time elected officials received a complaint from an HR employee regarding the behavior of employee 2205. In my opinion, the complaint warranted an investigative meeting, and I requested one to be conducted. An investigative meeting was scheduled by the supervisor. However, without any communication to me, the meeting was canceled with no date of rescheduling. The complaint has now escalated to a grievance requesting a safe work environment free from hostility and verbal abuse. On April 18th, we received a resignation letter from the planning director expressing his concerns with the conquer and control atmosphere existing in Town Hall. More importantly, he stressed the Human Resources Department's intimidating environment, which strives to defeat the employee rather than come to fair terms. He also stated he understands valuable employees are still being mistreated and disrespected in a bullying manner. That same day, we received a resignation letter from the purchasing specialist. Although she was not as direct in her resignation letter, she did express to me as her department head how this employee operates both the HR department and legal counsel is just wrong, and she cannot continue to watch it happen and no longer wishes to be a part of it. On May 8th, I sent an email to the board regarding the investigation conducted by employee 2205 on the election coordinator, Ms. Young. In the email, I included several examples as to how I believe I was disrespected and treated differently than other department heads, and Ms. Young was disrespected and treated unlike other employees throughout this process. I did not receive any response. At the board meeting on May 8th, the board received a letter signed by 20 management employees indicating they agree with the information provided in Mr. Maher's resignation letter and agree as a unit the culture described in this letter is accurate. The culture described was conquer and control, defeat the employee, and employees are being bullied, mistreated, and disrespected. The president of the Macomb Township Local Firefighters Union spoke at the meeting and concurred with both letters. The same evening, a resident spoke at the podium stating she had been bullied by Mr. Assorti and reported one incident to the board with no follow-up, and there have been 2 additional incidents since. On August 8th, 2018, another resident filed a police report stating, and I quote from the police report, Mr. Assorti stopped, turned towards the group while walking by and informed the 3. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms, just like the gun that I'm carrying now. Trustee Bustino witnessed this exchange and questioned his statement per the police report. The HR director has conducted investigations on employees for far less than what I've indicated tonight. The township is the employer, and the board has a responsibility to take prompt and remedial action on the complaints and statements that have been brought before us. The township has been put on notice that there potentially could be an environment of bullying, harassment, defeat the employee, conquer and control stemming from one individual. The employer will be liable for harassment if it knew about the harassment and failed to take prompt and appropriate corrective action. In an effort to take the precautionary measures necessary to provide a legal defense on behalf of the township, should a lawsuit arise, I make a motion to hire Greg Meehan from Foley and Mansfield Law Firm to conduct an employee investigation on employee 2205. I'm available for any questions.
Madam Chair, seeing no questions, I support that motion.
Mr. Bassano, I'm sorry, I just have one question. We would do this with any employee, correct? We would investigate.
We have, yes.
Thank you.
Motion by
Mr.
Ms.
Busno.
Posey, seconded by Mr. Busno. And
I'll do a roll call vote, Madam Chair.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the premises for the person that you selected?
Mr. Meehan was the one that was selected to do the, if you recall, our purchasing audit. He is already familiar with some of the department heads. I believe everybody agrees he gave a fair and unbiased opinion of our purchasing audit. He also provided us with solutions. He he was selected as the super lawyer for 2018 and 19 and provides legal services for issues involving employment and labor. He's one of only few attorneys from each state are selected for super lawyers, and the multi-factor selection process includes independent research, peer nominations, and evaluations, as well as professional achievement in law practice or legal practice. So I feel Mr. Meehan gave us great services before at a very reasonable expense to the township, and I believe he will do the same for this investigation.
did he give you an estimate of costs?
No, it would potentially be how much he, I guess, divulges into the investigation, how much time he spends with the employees or on the investigation.
He didn't give you a price per hour?
No. Mm-mm. But we don't get a price per hour for any legal counsel that we contract out for, just so you know.
Madam Chair, if I may, so you just chose this individual because of what his presentation was before, correct?
Well, based on the services that he provided to the township in the past, yes.
So that was a yes to my question.
I answered yes.
Okay. So you didn't go out and bid on any of this,
No.
correct? You
Mm-mm,
just
we
chose
don't.
him?
We don't go out to bid for legal counsel.
Okay, so then you just picked him because of what he did 2 years ago?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you didn't get a price on what it would cost us?
I didn't get a price, no, the services are available, but I'm following the practice of the township at this current moment. Mr. Assorti can contract out to anybody he wants at any price without any board approval. So I'm bringing it to the board. I think it's very important. I think it's worth any dollar that we spend on it.
Wow. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There's a motion on the floor that's been supported. Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes. Clerk Posey, yes. Trustee Bussino?
Yes.
Trustee Krasinski?
No.
Trustee Nevers?
No.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Treasurer Goodhue?
I find this unethical. I do.
I don't know if I can speak, I'm sorry.
We have to finish the roll call.
I'm sorry,
vote
go
first.
ahead.
That's okay. Treasurer Goodhue?
No.
And Supervisor Dunn?
No. Ms. Goodhue?
We're past
Miss-
the item she can speak during comments.
Pardon?
We're past the item she has to speak during comments.
Okay, I forgot we have to follow rules now.
We are now at public comments on non-agenda items.
No, Madam Supervisor, 19B was the Neiman's Law invoice that was moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So it was just to discuss the Nemeth Law invoice that we received?
You'll have to give me the wording because I didn't
Discussion
get
of the Nemeth Law invoice, it was removed from the bill run. Since I had the item moved to discussion, I would like to point out a few things that I have concerns with on this particular invoice. As I mentioned, there was an employee investigation done on an employee in my department. Past practice has been that the department head requests the investigation, the department head is involved in the investigation, and the department head ultimately makes the decision as to whether or not this employee moves forward with regards to discipline or moves forward to a laudermill hearing of such nature. I did not have that same opportunity. It became something that Mr. Assorti took over He investigated on his own. I had the information that was provided to me. I was satisfied with the employee's information. What concerns me is it's supposed to be unbiased, especially the HR director is not supposed to be against the employee. And it shows here, based on this invoice, the investigative hearing was conducted on March 18th. But however, on March 15th, it says he met with outside legal counsel that had to be brought in for this particular investigation for allegedly falsifying information on an application, which I find is far less gruesome as the things that have been brought before us recently, that he spoke to Ms. Gotti with regards to a Loudermill hearing for an employee who may be discharged for dishonesty on employment application. To me, the HR director already had his mind made up as to where this investigation was going before we even conducted it. That concerns me. In addition to that, we spent close to $2,000. So as you heard, Mr. Krasinski was concerned about how much an attorney would charge us to investigate all the allegations that have been brought before us in the last month and wanted to know how much that was going to cost. But yet, not bat an eyelash at the fact that we paid $2,000 for outside legal counsel to conduct an investigative meeting on an employee. In fact, $1,430 was just for that attorney to come in and conduct the investigative meeting. Now understand, investigative meetings happen in the township all the time on employees. They're conducted by the department head and they're conducted by the HR director. And the HR director should be able to answer the questions, and so should the department head. But in this case scenario, that wasn't an option. We had to get outside legal counsel. So we also paid $440 for that attorney to prepare documentation in the line of questioning. I believe the skills of our master HR director should be able to allow him to develop the line of questioning for an investigative meeting. But we spent $4,000 or almost $2,000 on that. We also spent $302 on potential issues on how to address an investigation prior to investigation. So it concerns me that our attorney is not capable of addressing investigations prior to an investigation. I just find this whole invoice to be unethical, and I just don't understand how tonight was the perfect example. I'm the elected official that has been elected by the people to operate the business of the township. I don't have the authority to bring in outside legal counsel to investigate the outlandish things that have been brought before us. But an employee of the township has all that authority to do so. It's incredible to me. In addition to that, this bill is a total of $6,270. Our purchasing policy does not allow for an invoice to be paid without it going before the board, over $5,000. I understand Mr. Assorti's contract or agreement reads that he can, but it also has other language in there, but nowhere in the agreement does it say he can supersede our purchasing policy. Not one other department head or elected official has the authority to do that. If they want to seek outside legal counsel or they have particular items that they want to purchase, they have to bring it before the board, anticipate the charges, and then we approve it. We have thousands and thousands of dollars that go out in legal expenses that we have no say in who gets contracted. As one of the residents pointed out, are these people friends of Mr. Assorti's? I have several friends. I've worked for Circuit Court for 6 years. I have several friends that can do legal work. I think if I was contracting them even tonight to do this investigation, some board members would have a problem with that. It doesn't appear to go both ways, is my concern with this invoice.
Madam Chair, I just had a comment on that too. Frank, sometimes I swear I think you have my notes. I've said that 3 times at meetings now, because I do have the clause in the contract, because our clerk did a great job of framing this issue, but we need to really bring a line out that I think we have been ignoring with legal bills. And I want to reread what Mr. Cusimano read, and again, I had this up here, Frank, ready to go, The employee in his capacity as general counsel shall have the authority and duty under the general direction of Township Supervisor to contract with outside legal counsel when, in the employee's exercise of his or her legal discretion, such arrangement is in the best interest of the township and or legally required. This is what I think we've been ignoring. Such retentions would be subject to board review. The only review that we've ever had is to approve bills. That is the only review that's ever come to our attention. And the thing is, you know, you put trust in a position to approve that because that's what you do. You kind of trust employees. But with recent developments in our township, I think that line of such retentions will be subject to board review needs to come to the forefront.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if there's no more discussion on this, I move to pay the bill as presented.
Motion by Mr. Krasinski,
Support.
supported by Ms. Goodhue to pay the attorney invoice.
Madam Chair, can we get a roll call vote on this?
Ms. Posey, would you call the roll?
Yes, trustee Krasinski,
Yes.
trustee treasurer Goodhue,
Yes.
trustee Bucino,
No.
trustee Nevers,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? He's done the work, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
clerk Posey, no, and supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Motion carries. Now we will move on to public comments, and this is on non-agenda items only. If you wish to speak to the board, please come to the podium.
That's right. That's all.
State your name for the record, and remember there is a 3-minute time limit.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Martin, here representing AFSCME 1917, the management union. Once again, I'm here to address comments made by trustee Nancy Nevers at the last board meeting. First, you stated again that Mr. Maher was not responsible for writing his letter. You said you had no proof, but it was your opinion. In fact, Mr. Maher told everyone that he wrote the letter and he stood by the contents of the letter. Exactly how much more proof do you need? You said that you were always willing to meet with anyone. You were always cordially and professional. Last meeting, union reps from every employee in this township addressed the board to make you aware of the problems that exist due to the combining of the HR and legal positions. At this time, you have only reached out to a few select employees. Why would you not reach out to all of the management team? Could it be that you really don't want to hear the answers that you will be given? They most certainly won't fit the narrative that Mr. Assorti created for the board in his response refuting Mr. Maher's letter. You acknowledge that it was, in fact, your first time being involved in contract negotiation. This must be your excuse for violating the sanctity of collective bargaining. It is a known fact that the confidentiality of what is discussed in that room stays in that room. That's just basic negotiations 101. Your comments last week were improper and uncalled for. It is also unfortunate that you had the township attorney and the township supervisor both at the board table with you, and neither advised you to refrain from talking about the subject matter. Probably your biggest offense was from last meeting is the scenario you described wasn't even accurate. You said from the jump the union demanded double-digit increases. That statement is untrue. Wages were not even discussed until our 6th or 7th meeting and was the last item to be addressed. That's hardly from the jump. You failed to mention the double-digit increases were only brought up after the board had already given double-digit increases to fire personnel, and of course Mr. Assorti received the unprecedented contract and then proceeded to offer the management union 000. You stated that the union then made an offer of 3, 3, and 3. False again. The 3, 3, and 3 offer, in fact, came from the township, not the union. After our membership accepted the offer and the township turned it down, you turned down your own offer. The AFSCME negotiations are a prime example of why HR and legal positions need to be separated. If we would have had the good fortune to deal with a properly trained, prepared HR director, we would not have experienced the problems that we endured from the jump. Ms. Nevers, we hope you finally find the time to do your due diligence into the contents of Mr. Maher's letter. We ask that you seek out all the facts rather than listen to one convenient version that seems to always be provided to you. We would also hope that you would ensure that those employees that do confide in you can do free of reprisal. Thank you.
Jim Julius. Regarding the last meeting, kudos to Ms. Posey and Mr. Bussinow for their factual assessments of the problems with this dual role of legal HR that has caused problems such as employee resignations, hostile work environment, etc. Also thanks to Mr. Patrick Maher and Ms. Cynthia Carnes for their courageous and factual presentations of the circumstances that led to their unfortunate resignations. Both will be sorely missed. After the last meeting, no longer can any board member deny not knowing anything about this problem. Between Mr. Maher's letter and the employees union letter signed by almost 24 employees, it's quite clear, despite Mr. Assorti's contradictions to the contrary, that a problem with the dual employment position exists today. The recent resignations and the causes of those resignations proves it. The board needs to address this without undue delay before we lose more valuable employees. By way of history, in 2016, 74 people applied for the HR director position after the former HR director left. Some of those applicants had master's degrees and 10 years experience, but 4 of you felt the dual role position was a better idea, though recent history has now proven it wasn't a good idea. Myself and many others said it was a mistake back in 2017, and I stand by that now. The dual employment position may have looked good on paper, but clearly it isn't working. This isn't personal. No one person can be expected to do 2 separate and different jobs effectively. The board should do an honest evaluation of this dual employment position and take steps to correct it. You cannot allow this conquer and control atmosphere to continue. Our employees are too valuable to risk losing even more of them if this situation is left unchecked. Regarding public comments at the end of these meetings, a resident can speak about anything, including agenda items. But obviously the supervisor didn't like my comments about the dual legal HR position, so she didn't allow me to finish. By denying me the right to speak about anything I want to speak about, the supervisor merely interjected her bias by making it personal. I don't make issues personal. I deal with known facts of the issues. Where is it written that the supervisor can pick and choose which comments are heard by the public at a public meeting? What difference does it make what a resident talks about in their 3 minutes? I believe the supervisor denying me my 3 minutes last meeting constitutes another violation of the Open Meetings Act, as well as my First Amendment right to free speech. I would ask the supervisor to quit treating the residents and employees as the enemy, and let's try to work together for the betterment of this township. There can be little doubt in anyone's mind why an ethics ordinance is sorely needed after the events of the past several weeks. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Not as tall as these other people. My name is Pam Lideline. I live in Macomb Township. I'm here to make you aware that June 7th, 2019 is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, also known as Wear Orange Day, to honor victims and survivors of gun violence, including my daughter, Michelle Packard. I came to you last year asking for a proclamation of this day. This board did not vote to make the proclamation. One of the reasons that was stated is gun violence is not a problem in Macomb Township. I believe gun violence affects every American citizen and would like to share some facts to make you aware. Be aware that there were 41 threats of gun violence in our local schools, including Chippewa Valley and Utica schools, between February 15th and February 28th, 2018, following the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Be aware that 65 area youths and young adults were charged with making a threat against a school following the Parkland school shooting that killed 17 people. Be aware that local schools hold active shooter drills to prepare students for gun violence. Be aware that a recent road rage incident endangered the lives of thousands as shots were fired and high-speed chase ensued from M53 down Hall Road to St. Clair Shores. I'm sure many of those on the road at the time were Macomb Township residents. Be aware that items stolen from vehicle break-ins in Macomb Township included firearms. Be aware that Macomb County Board of Commissioners unanimously voted to proclaim June 7th as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Macomb County. Be aware that an average of 100 people die each day in America as a result of gun violence. Be aware that approximately 4.6 million U.S. children live in households with at least one loaded unsecured gun. Be aware that in an average month, 50 American women are shot to death by an intimate partner and many more are injured. Be aware that approximately 44% of American adults report knowing someone who has been shot, and nearly 25% report that they or someone in their family have been threatened or intimidated by someone using a gun. Be aware that approximately 3 million American children witness gun violence every year. I believe that residents of Macomb Township are aware of the effects of gun violence in America and will wear orange on June 7th. I'm asking that you do so also. Thank you.
Frank Kuzmano, 16188 Jenny Drive. You don't have to vote yes. You can vote no. You can at least ask what happens if we vote no. My compliments to Trustee Bussino for voting no tonight. I want to just touch on this issue of change orders. When a change order comes up, you vote no to the change order. Or you at least ask what occurs if we do not vote yes. Now, Clerk Posey made my compliments to Clerk Posey on asking that it was anticipated, these costs, and it was $360,000 anticipated. It was underestimated. It's over $60,000, 60000. That's a 17% increase. So was the RFP not fully spec'd? Why wasn't it? Why aren't these questions being asked? Is anyone keeping track of how many overages there are? No, you just come in and vote yes because you have no other choice. This is called leadership. I myself have voted no and taken a great deal of scorn in the past. But more and more votes on the Macomb County Board of Trustees are coming up no now. There was 3 no votes on the latest tuition increase, including my own. One by a Democrat. So much for this monolithic view of Democrats as being 100% giving the House away to organized labor. That's simply not true and is falsehood. And what about the contract with Mr. Assorti? Is anyone asking what happens if you give notice to rescind it? Can you seek out independent legal counsel to find out what happens? What exactly is the relationship between general counsel and the supervisor's office? Is Mr. Assorti, for all practical purposes, running this township? Is it a lack of leadership or a lack of competence or a little bit of both? Why does the Macomb County Executive reign supreme at the county government? I would suggest to you it's because he controls Corporation Counsel and HRLR. You've done the exact same thing, but there's no charter giving that authority to Mr. Assorti. I just want to conclude that I'm extremely disappointed that more of the so-called Republicans are not voting no in the best interests of the township residents. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Western. I had read online that this board will be constructing an evaluation of the HR legal counsel position, including an anonymous employee survey. And if there was ever a time that you were going to bring in an outside investigator to handle something, that would be one of them. I'd also noted that at the last meeting, the board said they'd be doing this performance review, but they didn't know what it would look like. There are no goals or objectives. So let me take it down to some basics, and I have some suggestions for some goals and objectives. First one is, 2 years ago, all of the organizational charts were removed from the township website. We thought they were removed because the HR director was bringing them up to date as part of his HR audit, but they were never restored. And it would be useful of you to require him to do that. Second suggestion was prompted by the online video that the township posted on YouTube last week about job openings. It was called a recruitment video. It directs people to the township website, says you can apply online and even upload your resume online. Problem is, you can't do any of those things. We are still using the same old generic job application dated 2002. And have any of you looked at this job application? It is cribbed from the internet. It has this little red ribbon at the top that says attorney approved. And it actually, that looks a little bit like a good housekeeping seal of approval. And this is a document owned by someone else. It is copyrighted. It is copyrighted year 2002, and is owned by a company that you are supposed to be paying annually for the right to use it. But why are you using it? It doesn't even say Macomb Township. You've got a lot of positions out there right now, some of them high paying. And I was reassured though. I looked at it more carefully. It does ask applicants to supply their beeper number. And it also asks applicants, do they know how to use email? And how long have they had that skill? Now, the recruitment video is very nicely done, as all things done by broadcast media have been. But it's a vision of how people wish things actually are. I talk about a disconnect between the reality of what goes on and how people wish they were. Kind of like what we wish for from this board. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, there is trustees' comments right now. Anyone?
Yes, Madam Chair, I got a couple of comments. I wish they would have hung on tonight, but I do have to recognize that a couple Romeo High School civic students came tonight to get credit for their community service. Although they scooted out of there, I'll talk to them about that tomorrow. But it's great that students in the neighboring community are coming to Macomb Township to be engaged in the governmental process. So glad they were here. I had a comment about last meeting, and what just happened here probably makes it more relevant. So I'm going to read my comment, because I think tonight what happened with public comments changed again, okay? And this is what I was going to read. Last meeting, once again, a resident, and I will add a resident who was a former deputy clerk and a retired Macomb County deputy sheriff, was gavelled during public comments for not following meeting rules that are neither given to an elected trustee nor published or provided to the public at meetings. In the spirit of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, can we work on publishing and providing rules to residents who are engaging themselves with their government? That was my comment. But tonight we allowed Frank to speak about agenda items, which I think is allowed. sometimes it's not allowed. It was allowed tonight, right? I want to know the rules. From meeting to meeting to meeting, it can't be, if an issue bothers me, they can't talk about it at that time. But this week I'll let it go, next week I'll let it go. Because again, no offense to Frank, but he did speak on agenda items during public comments when last week Mr. Jellios got gavelled for it. So I just want to see some consistency from meeting to meeting to meeting to make sure we're not violating the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have two issues that I'd like to address tonight. The first one is the Friends of Macomb Township award of $1,000 to 6 of the worthy recipients here in the township. There will be a presentation at the rec center in the upper room on June 7th at 7 o'clock. And Friends of Macomb, we can all be happy that we have this organization. They were very instrumental in allowing us the memorial out in front of our building for both police and fire. And again, they raised the money for the mural at the rec center. And we continue to help students with the scholarships. There were, and I couldn't believe this, let's see, 62 applicants that presented their resumes and so forth, and out of those, 6 were chosen. So that's pretty exceptional, I think. And we also are sponsoring a golf outing on August 26th for anybody who would like to participate, and they can contact me if they would like to do that. And that's my first statement. The second statement, I'd like to address Mr. Martin's comments again this evening. First of all, I'm sorry that I had family obligations and was only able to dedicate one day to visiting all of the people that signed the letter, which is my intent. One of the questions I asked was, did that person feel that the representation and the caucus people had their specific best interest at heart? Okay, that was key for me to ask that question, especially since the contract was ratified 11 for, 10 against. And I'm just wondering if somebody would have been happy with the 1% over COLA, but a PPO healthcare plan that might help them with family obligations. We can agree to disagree on my opinions, but as Mr. Martin has and as I have a right to my being able to speak publicly, and I made a promise to Ms. Posey in closed session that I would visit every one of the people that signed the letter. And I have begun that process. It may take a while because, again, I have family obligations that take me out of the township for 2, sometimes 3 days a week. So I'm on that mission. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to add to Trustee Nevers, we've been in existence close to 14 years with the Friends of Macomb Township, and we've given out well over $70,000 just on scholarships. And the other thing is that I had picked up the flags in the blue bin in the lobby, and they were delivered to the Vietnam Veterans 154 in Clinton Township, and we will go ahead and burn them like we're supposed to. And then at the time of the burning, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance and salute the flags as they are being put into ashes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Smith?
I have nothing, thank you.
Very well, we'll move on to Treasurer's Comments.
Yes, today I returned from the Treasurer's Institute that I have attended in the last 2.5 days. We have a lot of networking that goes on there, and we are not the only township that has issues many of the townships have issues, and that's just the nature of the job, I guess. I've been reading a lot of ethics policies and things, and so it's been very interesting. But I do need to say tonight that this is very unprofessional and unethical to attack employees, any employees in public. Thank you.
Ms. Posey.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. First off, I'd like to congratulate the Sheriff's Department on the Community Service Award that they received this evening. Also, I would like to thank you for the information you provided on awareness for Gun Violence Day. Thank you for that extra information that you gave us this evening. As for being unprofessional, gosh, I don't even know where to go with that. So unprofessional because you bring facts toward the public to discuss. I don't call it attack. I didn't attack any employee. I brought the facts to the board to show that, as Mr. or Trustee Busno has pointed out, we pick and choose who can speak at the podium at certain moments and times. We also pick and choose employees that we're going to investigate. We pick and choose employees that we're going to discipline. We pick and choose who can do what. There is no consistency within the walls of this building on anything. And it is extremely frustrating as a department head. You're deemed unethical or unprofessional when you bring forward, I didn't even bring it forward, 30-some people brought issues forward to the board. And as our responsibility as a board, we have to do some type of prompt and remedial action. That is, I don't know if anybody understands here, but if we potentially get sued for any of these things that have been brought to our attention and we've done nothing, the insurance agency cannot pay out the lawsuit. It could become the townships that pays it out because we didn't do anything about it. I'm just simply asking that if we're going to investigate for $4,000 an alleged falsified information on an application, doesn't it warrant the same consistency on an employee where 32 people have indicated there's been some type of bullying or harassment? I mean, I don't think it's unprofessional. I think it's my job. I think it's professional. So that's my opinion on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. I only have one comment, and that is that any discussion of an employee should have been held in closed session. However, there was not even a notice that that was going to be added onto the agenda until I sat in this chair. That's all I have. Right now, we have an item to discuss in closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn to closed session?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Busno.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Smith to adjourn to closed session. Would you call the roll, please?
Trustee Busno?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Kuzminski?
Yes.
Trustee Nevers?
Yes.
Trustee Goodhue?
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes, and Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. That motion carries. We have returned from closed session. There was one matter discussed. That was the written legal opinion regarding township rights relative to paid medical leave, including compliance with the Public Act 369 of 2018. Are there any motions?
Madam Chair, it was for informational purposes only.
Thank you. That concludes the business for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by
Ms. Goodhue.
Ms. Smith.
Ms. Goodhue.
Ms. Goodhue,
And I'll support it.
seconded by Ms. Smith to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying nay. That motion carries and we are adjourned.